Hey, what's up everyone? JJ here and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're gonna look at the new June 2025 LEGO Disney Toy Story Celebration train set. In this video, we'll take a look at this set as well as the minifigures, and we're also gonna compare it to the earlier 2023 Disney Celebration train set. I'll look at how the similarities and differences for those floats, and we're also gonna rank kind of all 9 of the floats from worst to first. But let's jump right in now and take a look starting with the minifigures. Here we can see each of the Disney Celebration trains. There in the back is obviously the first Disney Celebration train that came out in 2023. It has 200 pieces. And then the newest one that came out in June of 2025, the Toy Story Celebration train and RC car, has 206 pieces. And each of these sets retail for $39.99 in the US. Both of these sets are 4+ sets. So for the instruction booklets, we see that it's broken up into multiple different booklets for the different parts of the build. Here we can see the Toy Story is split up into 4 booklets, while the Disney Celebration train is split up into 5 booklets. What I like about this is a young builder, for instance, if they only want to build or they want to start with their build of the RC car, for instance, they can jump right to this booklet and bag, and all the pieces will be there to complete this. So the designers do a good job kind of separating the build so that you can kind of choose which you're focusing on for each booklet. Obviously, the price to piece ratio is not as good as we normally like to see with LEGO. This is actually pretty bad. However, these sets have a lot of minifigures and a lot of custom print pieces. So we're going to start off taking a look at the minifigures, and then we'll compare some of the builds. The Disney Celebration train will come with 6 minifigures. We're going to get Mickey, Minnie, Moana, Peter Pan, Tinkerbell, and Woody. I think LEGO did a good job creating lots of variants for the Mickey Mouse minifigures by giving him different outfits. Here, of course, you can see he's wearing a train conductor's outfit. And then Minnie, we see kind of her traditional red dress, but she has a pink sweater over top. And here you can see that Mickey and Minnie minifigure use the same head sculpt, with different face painting. And with the hole in the top, you're able to add the bow for Minnie. The Minnie minifigure has dual molded legging, as well as additional printing there with the yellow. I don't normally love cloth pieces with minifigures. I feel like it usually looks too rigid. However, this is kind of flexible and soft enough that I think it works for the character. And with her hands down, it looks better, but I do still prefer the various plastic pieces they have for the skirts of the minifigures. The Moana minifigure is still exclusive to the Disney Celebration train. We see her in a mini doll. She has great torso printing, and I really like all the detailing there on her leg printing as well. And she has an alternate face print. And I do want to point out that her hairpiece is actually similar to like the LEGO Friends, where you have various areas where you can add a bow, and it's kind of that softer, more bendable plastic. Now, we've seen Peter Pan a few times. The earliest being, of course, with the first minifigure series, where he had much better printing on his torso and legs. However, I think this is fine with just the green legs in the re-release. And then we've also seen Tinkerbell a few times as well. I don't love the connection point there for her wings going under the head, as obviously you can see that there. Both these minifigures work for this $40 set. And while I like the head sculpt with Peter Pan's hair, hat, and ears all connected, as well as the printing there on the arm, it is disappointing that neither of these characters have an alternate face print. Next is Woody. He has a really detailed torso printing there, and I like the dual molded legs. And we also see great detailing here on the back of his torso. He does have an alternate face print included. Starting off looking at the Toy Story minifigures, we can already see that the Woody figure is a downgrade because of the plain blue legs. It does appear that everything else is identical, from the face print to the printing on the torso, as well as the hat piece. We can see the same alternate face print as well. I really like the Jessie minifigure. As you can see, they did a great job with the leg printing there for both the feet as well as the legs. And I think she has a really awesome torso print. Her hairpiece also has a little hole to add a bow, but it is a traditional harder plastic, so it's not the soft plastic like we saw with Moana. Here you can see her alternate face print and the back torso printing. Buzz Lightyear is also a minifigure we've seen multiple times, especially with the Lightyear sets. I think they did a really good job with this figure. I like some of the changes they made, especially to his wings. This connection point is a lot different than what we saw with the CMF series that came with Buzz Lightyear. It's going to allow you to use some of the play features, especially when Buzz is riding on the back of RC. Last up is Bo Peep, obviously wearing the traditional skirt. I really like that they used this kind of larger skirt piece from the Queen and later the Queen of England from the CMF series. And so I think she looks really good, and I think the printing is great there on the torso and the legs. She also has a great alternate face print, and of course there we can see the hairpiece with the hair coming out. And I really like the arm printing as well that we see there. Even though the LEGO Toy Story Celebration train and RC car only comes with 4 minifigures, it does come with a few additional characters. The biggest one, of course, being RC, that we'll talk a lot more about when we look at the builds of the train. We also see this printed piece that represents Bo Peep's 3 sheep. And we see these 4 micro-scale figures painted in this green to represent the little army men. Since both of these sets were priced at $39.99, it was disappointing that the newest 2025 Toy Story Celebration car had 2 less minifigures. It does technically have 6 more pieces in the overall set. However, I find that minifigures add a lot of value to sets, and so I wasn't happy to see that. With that being said, I do think Bo Peep, Jessie, and Buzz are 3 of the strongest minifigures from both of these sets, with Woody and Moana from the original Disney Celebration train also being some of the stronger figures in this set. Next, we're going to compare some of the builds of these 2 trains and look at some of the detailing as well as the prints that are included. Of course, both trains start with an engine car, and the builds are very similar. If you look at it, it actually looks like the Disney Celebration train, the build is a little bit larger. It kind of looks like one step higher. We can see that with the slope piece being smaller, as well as just kind of the height there. I will point out there is a printed piece on both sides of the original Disney Celebration train, and we don't get any prints for the new Toy Story version. Looking here at the front of the trains, I really like this Mickey piece we see on the original Disney Celebration train. I think that looks really nice, and I like the dual windows as well. I don't love the engine train here for the Toy Story Celebration train. Nothing about it screams Toy Story to me. Obviously, you have the 2 army men there, but those can be removed. And I guess this gold star at the front, perhaps that is supposed to represent Woody's badge, but it is a very loose tie-in my opinion. We're now going to look at all the floats one by one, and at the end, I will rank what are my favorites and least favorites. So, of course, first up is the Captain Hook's ship. I really like how they've made this kind of a little ship design there with the shape of it. It is strange it doesn't come with Captain Hook, but nonetheless, I think it was a fun inclusion. I really like the cloth piece they've used there for the flag. I think that's very well detailed. And I also like down here on the ship, of course, how they've included this anchor. And there's lots of standing room for both Peter Pan as well as Tinkerbell. And one or both of your characters can hold either the lantern or the telescope. Next up is Singin' Sheriff Woody's stage. Didn't know Woody played the guitar, but here he does. I do like, again, we see the sheriff is a printed piece, keeping in mind that these 4+ sets are not going to have stickers, so anything that you see is going to be printed. I actually really like the build there for the cactus on the right. The stage is an odd inclusion in my opinion, as is the guitar, but you know, this works. The color choice definitely represents a little bit of the Western feel, and I do like the blue up there kind of represent the sky. I think the Moana float looks quite nice. We see the little wave piece there with the crab underneath, and then we also see the rock there in the back with some greenery. The wave piece can be lifted up and down. However, keep in mind, Moana is supposed to stand there on the top of the wave. However, you can also place a figure over here on the bottom of the float. The back of the float has a little box, and inside that box is the Heart of Te Fiti. So that's a nice little kind of hidden Easter egg there with the set. The Disney Celebration train also came with this side build of a cake and cupcake, as well as some balloons, and this is for, I guess, a vendor mini to stand and hand out. I do like the use of that kind of blue frosting there for the icing, and the balloons on the box, you can spread them out through all the different sets. And again, we see another Mickey ears there at the top. Starting off the floats from the Toy Story Celebration train, here we see Buzz Lightyear. What is really cool about this is meant to look like the box that Buzz Lightyear comes in, and it detaches very easily. So if you were to display this not as a train, you can just put your Buzz Lightyear minifigure in here, and then you kind of have this fun little build of his box, which is a really clever idea. Next up, the train for the Toy Story car is the passenger for Bo Peep, and there's a little seesaw. Unfortunately, it's not in any way connected to the wheels, so as you wheel this, the seesaw does not go up and down. However, you can imagine Bo Peep and the sheep kind of balancing back and forth, and we also see Bo Peep's staff as well as the lamp there, which makes sense as Bo Peep originally in the Toy Story films is part of a lamp scene with her sheep. And last up, not officially part of the train as there's no connection point, we do have the RC car. I really like this. I think they did a great job with it. I think the scale works perfectly. If you notice, there's this rocket piece here on the back. And given how Buzz Lightyear's wings connect, you can actually detach the wings and attach the rocket right to the back of Buzz Lightyear to reenact that scene. And I like how there is plenty of space on this build for both Woody and Buzz to sit down. As this is a 4+ set, one thing I do want to point out is the connection point for the wheel. Normally in a set, this should be 3 separate pieces. You would have the rubber wheel, of course, the inside of the tire, that red part, and then the actual Technic pin all separate, but this came pre-assembled in the bag for all 4 wheels. However, these are traditional Lego pieces and you're still able to separate them yourselves. Now I'm gonna rank from worst to first each of these floats, or I guess vendor for the balloon, so we can see which ones I think are the weakest to which ones I think are the strongest builds that really hold this set together. My least favorite build is the balloon vendor slash cake celebration here with Minnie. I think ultimately the reason I don't like this is I would have preferred they just take the bricks they used for this side build to make each of the parts of the 4 parts of the float stronger with just additional details. I didn't need this. One thing that I like about the train, both the trains, is you're able to connect all the different floats in different orders, and this doesn't really follow that theme. This is not something I needed. It was pretty much a useless build, and I would not have bought the set if it had 5 builds similar to this, for instance. Coming here in 8th place on the list from worst to first is the Toy Story Celebration Engine Train. Like I said earlier, nothing about this build screams Toy Story to me. Obviously, we need an engine train to start off the parade or the float. But this is one that just not a lot of great detailing that screamed even Disney in any way to me. In 7th place is the lead train car here for the Disney celebration. Again, I like the print there, kind of the Disney magic, and I like the color choice there with that dark blue, the navy. I think it works well, as well as kind of the Mickey emblem there on the front. But, all the other sets in these 2 train waves are much stronger and more detailed. In 6th place for me is singing Sheriff Woody in his dancing stage. Ultimately, I think I understand why they went this route. If you wanted to have kind of an Old West feel here on the train, you're not really going to do a saloon for a 4+ children set. So they kind of changed it up by giving it the feel of the Old West with a guitar. So it makes sense. I like the printed piece. I like the cactus build, but overall, not the strongest in the bunch. In 5th place here is the Moana float. Overall, it's a really nice concept there with the water and the rock and the Heart of Tafiti there in the back of the rock. This is one of the floats that I think would have really benefited if we completely removed that mini cupcake balloon stand. If we had doubled the height of the water there so the wave was coming down, there's a proper area on the top for her to stand, I feel like this float could have looked a lot cooler. Instead, it's kind of a mini version of what I think it should be. In 4th place for me from the Toy Story Celebration is the Bo Peep float. I actually really liked the detailing they've included. I liked the use of the lamp and the seesaw to kind of represent the rolling hills. I just wish that seesaw mechanism had some way been activated when you actually roll this. That would have really put this ahead a little bit, and I don't think it would have taken a ton additional bricks to make that feature happen. In 3rd place is Captain Hook's Jolly Roger here with Peter Pan and Tinkerbell. I think this is a really unique set. Some things that really make it stand out, of course, is the cloth fabric piece there in the back with the flag for the Jolly Roger, as well as the anchor here on the bottom. Overall, it is a boat, so it's a little bit different and more unique than some of the other sets. This is another one similar to Moana that really would have benefited from some additional bricks. If we had raised the height of the boat, I think this would have really stood out a bit more. In 2nd place is the Buzz Lightyear float. Obviously, this is his spaceship, but for me, it really represents the box he comes in because the toy in the movie, of course, comes in a spaceship-shaped box. And what I like about this float is it feels very complete. That was what was missing with a lot of the earlier Disney Celebration floats, is they didn't feel complete. This feels like a complete idea. We made Buzz Lightyear's spaceship, we made it complete, and the idea that you can take it off, I think, is really cool. They even kind of use the Buzz Lightyear's colors there on the bottom of the train, and this is a set I could see myself displaying outside of the context of this train. And in 1st place is the RC car build. I wouldn't say this is a perfect build necessarily, but when you talk about making things in minifigure scale, I think this RC car is in the perfect scale that it should be in relation to the minifigures of Woody and Buzz. So for that, this raises super high on my list because it feels like we have an additional character from Toy Story if we're trying to act out some of those scenes. With that being said, I do wish there was some way to connect it to the train, maybe even if we're going to be going backwards or from the front. And it's really the ability to connect all of these sets that I think really make the idea stand out and something that's really special. I know we've only seen 2 now, obviously with Disney and then Toy Story, but I really hope they continue the idea of kind of these buildable trains as they can all be connected. While the $40 price point is $5 to $10 higher than I think it should be, if they keep continuing unique minifigures with prints in these sets, I will likely continue to buy them and add to my ever-growing Disney train. Let me know what you think of these two celebration trains in the comments down below, and what additional themes do you want LEGO Disney to make for the celebration trains? We can maybe see a villain's train, a princess train. Let me know what other ideas you have in the comments. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you want to stay updated with LEGO leaks, rumors, news, and reviews, hit the subscribe button down below. But I will see you all next time. Thank you.